Greetings, Culturians, and welcome back to the channel. Today we have to talk about the absolute abject failure that was Supergirl. Now, I've been talking about this for going on a week, and we knew it was going to fail. We talked about that. We saw it fail. We talked about that. I reviewed the movie and what a failure it was. We talked about that. And then I did a video about exactly how badly it failed. And now we have to talk about the consequences, because there's always going to be some consequences. And look, blaming the fans isn't going to work, which we'll get to in a minute, but you have other issues going on right here. It's quite possible that the consequences land on James Gunn's front door and in the form of a pink slip. So let's talk about it. Here we go. But before we get started, just a real quick reminder, I am trying to get to 50K. Double check you're still subscribed to the channel. If not, click on the subscribe button. Believe it or not, a lot of people are finding they're not subscribed, so do check that for me. Also check that notification bell, make sure you click it, and turn it on to all notifications or whatever the best choice would be for you. For me, it's to get everything that I do, which I would appreciate. Also, I would appreciate a thumbs up and a comment down in the comment section below. All right, so just the story. Supergirl failure blames fans. Women staying home. How is that our fault? The film was made for the ladies, right? This is the new appeal of superhero films, or it has been since Wonder Woman, which was the only one to wonderfully get that right. Even Captain Marvel missed out on what it could have been because it pivoted towards this girl power, girl boss, right, always from the beginning, all the time, to whatever it then became. But look, that's not the only problem, is people staying home. It just didn't have an audience. There was no reason to make it. And that's a bigger problem indeed. But all of these things have consequences. Actions have consequences, and so do bad movies. And guess what? James Gunn might not survive DC regime change, and this is not only coming to us from Cosmic Book News, but there's a similar article that actually came out from comicbookmovie.com, which normally those two sides of the equation don't agree, and that's very strange. Now, I'm going to say it this way. If you fail 2 times in a row with $200 million plus projects with a inexperienced screenwriter in charge of one of those, if not 2 or 3 upcoming projects in the future, maybe your judgment isn't good and you shouldn't be a studio head. Well, yeah, maybe you shouldn't be a director of movies anymore. Maybe you should just be a creator of things and do something else with your life. But anyway, as Matt says in this article here, there's a line buried in the Wrap's new Supergirl postmortem worth flagging, because it lands exactly where our reporting has been since last fall. In their breakdown of where DC goes after the flop, the Wrap cites a top agent who says that James Gunn specifically should be nervous and predicts he won't survive the change of ownership, even while expecting DC and its longtime executives to endure. Well, that's interesting. It's also a correct assessment. I don't know how anybody would want to continually keep hiring somebody who, well, usually wears out their welcome. Now, of course, Gunn was also accused of doing some very bad things at Marvel, but if he's not performing well for DC, should he still have jobs over there? Well, I don't know how nervous DC is, but certainly James Gunn should be nervous, the agent said. There will always be a DC, and current execs have survived previous regime changes, but I don't think Gunn survives. Well, I wonder why. And look, I've speculated on this myself for quite some time. Why would you keep around somebody who generates so much negative around them all the time and also doesn't generate any positive revenue? And leave it to somebody else to yell at me about, oh, well, merchandise sales. Really? For Supergirl? Oh, well, it's going to sell better on streaming. To who? Their own streaming service? That's not making money. That's changing the responsibility. That's all you're doing. You're washing your guilt, your responsibility off on another division of the company. That's not a good story. That's not a good story to tell. Now, CBN reported, and when? Well, back in 2025, our Hollywood insiders told us James Gunn would be out as head of DC once Warner Brothers Discovery sells, with David Ellison's incoming regime expected to put Mike DeLuca in charge and start over, which makes sense. DeLuca and Abdi are really doing great things over at Warner Brothers. The only exception would have been Joker 2, or at least in my estimation. Now, in February, YouTuber John Campea predicted Gunn would ask out of his contract before the end of the year and land back at Marvel. We flagged it as matching what we said first. In March, insiders at WonderCon told us Gunn would be gone even before Man of Tomorrow, making a graceful exit rather than getting pushed out like after the merger closes, which also makes sense and would give him plausible deniability on why he's leaving. He could say, well, I have other opportunities. I want to work with somebody else. I want to go back and work for the masters over at Marvel or something similar. Or he could go to work for Sony or somebody else because they don't seem to have any direction for their Spider-Verse. But even the trades are lining up here, and I think this is a good point in the story. Puck's Matt Bellany made the call before the weekend even started. He framed Supergirl's flop as bad timing for Gunn and Safran, writing that their post-merger future running DC will likely be decided by David Ellison and the incoming Paramount team. That's the same handoff our insiders described back in October when the new owner was holding the call on Gunn. The Wrap took it even further. Their agents read that Gunn won't survive as the same conclusion, slated as an outcome rather than an open question. And you know what? I agree. Once again, why keep something around that doesn't work? The Wrap also backs the other half of it, that the DC slate under Gunn has no real plan, which is a huge problem if you have, well, a franchise to build, especially with the top 3 characters and only one of them so far appearing in your consolidated universe. And they report DC's next priority is the Bane Deathstroke movie with no director or cast attached. Our insiders have been saying the same, only sharper. They told us Matt Reeves has concerns over Gunn getting to use Batman, with the word back that Gunn has been all over the place without a clear plan. No arguments there. And look, it results in this. Supergirl's theatrical performance globally, as of the day, well, it should be resolved already. Under $70 million. 67.1. 37.1 being reported here domestically and 30 internationally. And these have been recently updated. I still think this is still too high, but I was willing to say 37.5 million. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's not going to perform going forward, and we don't have to look at very many days worth of data to see that. June 25th, which was the Thursday previews day. Now, mind you, and consider that the 24th was the first day that this saw fans at fan releases in IMAX, which are expensive tickets, so people could see it on the Wednesday. On the Thursday, the 25th, it saw 7.8 million in theaters. Okay, except that it didn't. It was accumulation of Wednesday and Thursday. So by the time we get to Friday, it's at 18.4 million, meaning it made $11 million on its actual Friday and benefited heavily from 2 other days of performance. Then we have on the 27th, which is Saturday, a 41% drop. We artificially increased the drop by counting multiple days as one day, which has never really made sense to me. So 10.8 million in gross on the Saturday. Not a step in the right direction. And instead of being able to say, hey, this did better than yesterday, you can't. And finally, you get to Sunday at 7.9 million, already falling another 27% to 37.1 million, provided all those numbers are not updated once again, which they very well could be. And look, here in the conclusion of it all, I don't think James Gunn was a good fit for DC. I think he would have been great at the cosmic efforts over at Marvel, and said as much way back when. I also don't see him popping his head back up over at Marvel, because whether or not it was, a conspiracy to send Gunn over to DC to kill it off once and for all. I don't think that's actually genuinely what's going to happen. What I do think will happen is we get a brand new DC studio head, and we get a consistent plan that gives us the big three right up front. Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, all in some kind of an order, and then a get-together film that you could start to call out Justice League, where you identify the other characters that are part of the Justice League and bring them into the fold. Do I think it would be worth that? Yes. Do I think you could drag Supergirl into that? Maybe, but why would you? It's a derivative character that really doesn't have an overlying arc that anybody wants to follow. And that was the problem with Supergirl to begin with. They took a Tom King story, largely ignored it, and then ended up making Supergirl a murderer, much like the objections to Zod in the Snyderverse. There's a lot of problems here, and I'm just not on board for any of them. But hey, those are my thoughts. What are yours? Do you think James Gunn retains his job after the immense failure of Supergirl? Do you think we see maybe DeLuca and Abdi take over here and actually do something worthwhile? Or do you think they're going to put DC on a shelf for a little while because it doesn't seem like comic book movies are hitting right now? Anyway, your thoughts are as good as mine, so let me know them down in the comments section below. And as always, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, and until next time, see ya. Just hopefully at a better movie than Supergirl.